All right, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for being here at Construction Tech Tuesday for this great presentation by Rob Hosken. The Passive House Accelerator is a collaborative online platform for sharing innovation and thought leadership in passive house design and construction. We publish articles and interviews, produce weekly virtual confabs with passive house pioneers from around the world, and elevate the work and programming of the passive house movement's leaders, practitioners, and organizations through interviews, articles, social media campaigns, video, and podcasts. Our aim is to catalyze zero carbon building by accelerating the adoption of passive house building. With our co-hosts, Kevin Brennan, Shannon Pendleton, Sean St. Amour, and Mark Willey, we produce Construction Tech Tuesday to share the technical, the technique, and the technology of passive house construction. Each week, we welcome guest practitioners to dive into the details of practice with a builder and tradesperson as our target audience. We welcome folks from all corners of the construction and design world to join us each week, and we're really happy you're here with us tonight. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Sean St. Amour. Behind me is a passive house in Burnaby, British Columbia. Just thought I'd show you some of the details in the pre-show, so hopefully you got to see it. If not, maybe we can dive into it later. Glad to be here as always, and let's send it over to Shannon.
Sean, I love the walking tour. What a wonderful preview to start the night off. And everyone is ready to have a great time. Remember to put your questions in the chat with a Q in front. I'm Shannon Pendleton from Sanderson Design, and I'll be concierging the questions for Rob Hosken tonight. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Shannon. So I had the pleasure of meeting Rob over the last year virtually on this exact platform, the Passive House Accelerator. And, side chats lead to LinkedIn exchanges, lead to phone calls, lead to following their posts and learning what they do. And I'm still learning what Rob does because he does so much. I know that his background is in architecture, and then he took the step forward to help others and bring in the world of building science to our physical structures. And we're blessed when we have people like this in our industry sharing the examples. And I encourage you to take notes, to take photographs, and to share those examples so that we can get more Robs in our world. Rob?
Hey, everybody. Thanks. I'm Rob Hosken. I'm with Building Performance Architecture, and I am an architect, but I mostly do quality assurance, quality control. I'm going to be saying that phrase a lot, QAQC, during this presentation. And I think I'm ready. Should I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we have a first thing on this presentation. I believe we're going to have a poll. Whoever on the Passive House Accelerator team is ready for that. And also, I want to mention too, I think Passive House Accelerator is amazing. And with that, let's check this poll out here. So if you can see on the presentation here, there's a couple of photos. There's one of a stair penthouse on a roof with a blower door in it, and there's an infrared photo. And so I've got a couple of questions about whether you guys can identify what's going on in these photos. So with that, why doesn't everybody take a few seconds and click on the answer that you think is right for the two questions? So people did pretty well, although I think I tricked, you guys did well on the first one. That's correct. You can tell it's pressurizing the fans pressurizing the building because the fabric shroud is puffing out like there's air trying to push out. So that is the correct answer for that. And I did trick you guys on the second one with the infrared. It is a door, you can tell by the door handle, and it's a fancy passive house door that isn't fully latching. And I always do detailed infrared photos from indoors because it's easier to see details that way. So it's not a gaseous alien life form. oozing into your house. And it's not lack of insulation, it's not indoor air leaking out, but it's actually a cool basement on a warm day with warm air leaking into the building. So I hope you guys had fun with that. I certainly do in my work, and those are just a couple of examples of what we do. And I'm trying to see if I can advance my slides. Yep, okay. All right, so this slide here, this is the same building that we were just looking at the top of. And it's a test we did last month, about a month ago now. It's a 52 unit apartment building. And we got an amazing blower door number on the preliminary blower door test, which we do immediately after the air barrier is installed. 977 CFM 50. It's probably less air leakage than the building that you're in, almost any building. And 0.017 CFM 50 per square foot of envelope. That's 72% below the maximum allowed by FIAS, which this is going to be a FIAS certified building almost certainly. So amazing result. I was very excited about it. I stuck it up on LinkedIn, and you know, everybody loves an impressive blower door test. It got a lot of reaction, and I don't know if that's why I'm on tonight, but anyway, it's not, it doesn't happen by accident. And a lot goes into making this kind of a result happen. So how do we get it to happen? Teamwork, experience, and vigilance. I'll start with the experience point and just talk a little bit about what we do and what we've done at Building Performance Architecture. We started doing passive house projects in 2013. And since then we've been hired for 12 projects. We've completed 8 and we have 4 going on right now. And there's just a little breakdown of the types that we've worked on. So we've done 12 projects since 2013. It's not more than anybody else has done, but we're a small firm and we keep pretty busy doing those and a bunch of other types of QAQC work. You see listed here Energy Star homes and multifamily new construction. LEED for homes, we've got a project right now that's a big apartment building going for LEED for homes. Envelope commissioning of non-residential projects. So being an architect, I tend to focus on envelope when I do commissioning, and we partner with other firms to do the building systems. And then we also do existing building energy audits. So I see a hand up on my screen. Is it time for a question here from
Not
Robert
quite yet.
Kelly?
I think
No.
Robert Kelly's got butterfingers while he's driving, maybe. But I'll note that he has a question and I'll save it for later, unless
All right.
unless you have a burning desire to check in with him.
Okay, I'm all right. The other ways this amazing blower door result happens is with teamwork. And I think that's probably the most important part, is working with a team that keeps on top of things that are going on in a passive house building. It does take a lot, and vigilance kind of goes along with that, just with the the real stringent air leakage limitations. So we need to have somebody looking at the building for air leakage pretty much all the time. We do have to communicate well with both the design team and the construction team. So we kind of have to speak some different languages. This picture here on the upper right is a team that we had to meet with, and that includes all of the team members, the funder, one of the raters on the rater side, the owner, contractor, and the architect, and we all got together and we were figuring out how to fix this building that needs help passing its energy requirements. One thing I like about this QAQC work is that our work scope is less than the scope that architects and contractors have to do on a project. And so because of that, we get to see more buildings. And I really enjoy that part of it, seeing more and collaborating with more people. And we have to watch out, or else we might learn something from all this experience that we get. And then last about vigilance is I had an experience with this last month at this building that we got the blower door number on. I was up on the roof and ready to leave, and I kind of wanted to get out of there. I was on the ladder. I was going to go down, and I thought to myself, did I see everything that I needed to see? Does it all make sense? And I told myself, yeah, I think I'm okay. I'm just going to go. I didn't really listen to that voice too much. And then when I got back to the office, I looked through the photos and I saw something that I should have talked to the contractor about before I left the site. And so it just kind of told me again that, listen to that voice that's telling you to make sure that you see everything and everything makes sense. So my last 3 points here are what we do. We learn by doing on site. So it's a lot of hands-on practical experience. We get to play with our toys, all of our test equipment and infrared cameras and stuff. And I say this makes energy efficiency sexy because it turns energy and efficiency into something that you can see and touch. And, it's kind of like solar panels, it's like something that's really there. So, so kind of the core of our company here, our mission probably resonates with everybody on the chat here on the Zoom. Greatly reduce energy use and carbon emissions to speed the transition to zero carbon economy. It's a big picture. And then our purpose, we help leaders of multifamily, commercial, and institutional building projects overcome quality control challenges and achieve their project goals, so get their certifications with hands-on QAQC solutions. So just a little bit more background before we get back into some more fun pictures. This is kind of the core slide about QAQC and its value. So QA is quality assurance, happens generally before construction and making sure that things are ready to get done right during construction. And there's a list of some of the things we do. I highlighted design reviews because that's not necessarily something that people in the passive house world think that verifiers do, but when we're doing Energy Star stuff, there's always design review involved with that to make sure the project the design is meeting the Energy Star requirements. And then we also do design review for non-passive house commissioning projects. So, and then quality control is making sure that things happen properly during construction. So it's controlling the construction process and doing the inspections and tests and helping the contractor make adjustments that need to be made. And we try, basically our rule is for everything wrong that we see, we make a recommendation on how to fix it. So we don't just tell somebody that something's wrong and they're on their own. And then the last definition here is commissioning, and it's basically another term for QAQC. And I wrote that it's best to start in the pre-design phase, and it's pretty much like any other collaborative process. So the earlier you start, the better results you'll get in the end. And then pretty much the key here, the value of QAQC, it helps the owner get what they're paying for. So that's what the owner likes. And then for the contractor and the design team, it reduces the risks that they have if something goes wrong. So by preventing problems, fewer callbacks for the contractor, and potentially fewer redesign issues for the architect and design team. And when it's done well, everybody benefits. So for Passive House, Passive House is kind of unique in requiring on-site QAQC. I think basically Passive House and Energy Star are the programs that incorporate it, the best, and it makes sure that the buildings that are in these programs actually perform the way that they're designed to. So both of the main Passive House systems focus QAQC on the basic principles of insulation, airtightness, and ventilation. And then beyond that, FIAS is incorporated and kind of integrated with the US Energy Star program and Indoor Air Plus, Zero Energy Ready Homes. So those integrated programs have a bunch of other QAQC requirements, and they're super well researched, and there's a lot of good stuff there. There's really nothing that's extraneous. It's all based on making the building as energy efficient, high indoor quality as it can be. So here's a list of the core Passive House QAQC procedures, and it goes from foundations, under slab, and I'm kind of going in sequence of construction. So once you get the slab, then you go to the above grade wall air barrier. We like to do a blower door test immediately after the whole building air barrier is complete, so that you can see any air leakage problems with the primary air barrier while it's still exposed and can be fixed. And then above grade wall and roof insulation. And we get to the final QAQC procedures, the blower door test, thermal imaging, verifying the equipment that's been installed. And a lot of these things are to collect and give back to the Passive House designer or Passive House consultant to verify that what they have in their energy model is actually what's in the building. So the photos here, this, in case you guys haven't seen the blower door test computer program that we use, this is a very cool piece of software from the Energy Conservatory that we run the blower doors with when we do Passive House tests. And it does regression analysis and gives us an average of all these little red dots to give us the final result. And down here is me holding a clamp meter to measure the power use of the ventilation system. And that's something that FIAS requires. And again, that goes into the energy model. That's the final confirmed energy model. Then another list of QAQC procedures that FIAS requires that are related to Energy Star and the other programs. And over on the right, you'll see this is our Rater Design Review checklist from Energy Star that we go through, and we do check the design and make sure it's complying with Energy Star requirements. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, except that also for Energy Star, they require individual dwelling unit duct leakage tests and also dwelling unit air infiltration tests, which John Jensen presented about a couple weeks ago on this series. So it really helps to have an airtight apartment and not have to have air leakage from one apartment to the next. And then beyond Passive House, other commissioning stuff is possible. And we had a little discussion earlier before the presentation tonight about water, and a lot of the other envelope commissioning is geared towards preventing water from getting in the building. And that's not something that Passive House makes you do, but it's still pretty important. And so some of the projects that we've done other commissioning on, the one on the upper left doesn't look that great, but actually it was a very cool project. It was a middle school and high school project that we did envelope commissioning for. And lower left is actually a living building certified project for a botanical garden. And then we did a university building on the upper right, and currently we're working on the Pittsburgh International Airport. We're doing envelope commissioning for that. I'm transitioning into some of the projects that we've done. And I guess I'll keep plowing through unless anybody has the need to ask a question at this point. You guys all okay? You still with me? Okay, cool. So this is our first Passive House project. It's a 24-unit apartment building in Pittsburgh. So I had wanted to work with Action Housing. It's a low-income housing nonprofit in Pittsburgh, because they've done some really great projects. And so I'm an architect, and I told them, man, is there any way I can work with you guys? Do you need me? Can I design a building or anything like that? And I told them, well, I'm also a HERS rater. And they said, hey, if you're a HERS rater, you should get Passive House rater certified. And if you do that, then we can have you work on one of our projects. And so we did. And this was the project that they had us work on. And it was actually the first Passive House certified apartment building, maybe ever, definitely in the US. First FIAS certified apartment building. So that was pretty cool. And we had a really good experience with it too. We learned a lot, and the contractor learned a lot. 4080 Architecture was the architect, and that was actually a company that I had worked for previously. And Mercedes Construction is a really good contractor in the Pittsburgh area, and they were amazing, and they still are, in terms of listening to what we were saying about what they needed to do, and doing their best to meet all the requirements. We've had the pleasure of working with them on some other projects too, and it's always good to work with somebody who is eager to learn about high performance QAQC and making the buildings the best they can. Let's see. So the interesting story for this was the preliminary blower door test was great. They passed, but then on the final blower door test, they did not pass because in between those two, people tend to poke a lot of holes in the building envelope. And so we gave them the bad news, and they assigned, I don't know how many people it was, but they assigned staff to just go through the building and look at everything and seal everything they could find. And a few weeks later, they told us, okay, we're done. And we came back and tested it, and it did pass. So a couple other things. This one, the laundry machines actually make a pretty big difference in apartment building energy use, especially on the Energy Star side where you have to get HERS indexes. So initially the vendor put in a standard washer, in like a bunch of standard washers in the laundry room, and we said, actually, no, you guys, we told you that the washers needed to be Energy Star, and you know, if they're not going to hit the HERS index that they have to hit. So the owner told the vendor, yes, you actually do have to give us Energy Star washers. So they did. And that's become something that we do on every multifamily project at this point. And then over here on the right, another pretty amazing thing that happened was that the ventilation system delivers fresh air to the air handler just in this plenum above the kitchen ceiling. The air handler has an open hole in the back, and I'm not really sure why. I guess that's just, they decided to mix the return air and the ventilation air in this plenum. So we were not getting good duct test numbers. We sealed off the ventilation supply duct, as you can see, and we tested the plenum as part of the duct system, which it was, and we were not getting passing results. But if you look, you'll see above the duct was the way that somebody decided to run a line set into the apartment. And you see a close-up of that, and that is through the corridor wall, which is a fire-rated wall. So they weren't happy that we weren't passing the duct test numbers, and they were trying to say that you shouldn't test the plenum, you should just hook the duct blaster right up to the air handler. But then when we found this, you know, it showed why it was really important to you know, test that plenum and see what was going on, because we had a hole through the fire-rated wall here. Moving on to another project. This is a medical office that is inserted in the ground floor of an old building that was a high school and had been converted into senior housing. So it was a retrofit project, and they were doing it to Passive House standards. So again, it was Action Housing and Thoughtful Balance Architects that were the developer and architect. And we collaborated with Craig Stevenson of the Oros Group. And back then he was still working in construction. And so he was the contractor on the project. And we hit it off. And since then we've worked with Craig and the Oros Group more and more. So I think right now we have 4 projects with them. Some things about this project. We learned some lessons about ventilation system testing and balancing, which is one of the key things you have to do for Passive House QAQC. On the left is the testing and balancing contractor's device, and on the right is the device that we had that FIAS told Raiders they had to buy to do ventilation system balancing. It turned out that it was the opening there only goes to 17 inches, and the registers in commercial projects are all 2 foot by 2 foot. So, you know, the first project that we had to do, we found out that our equipment didn't fit. And so I took a cardboard box and made an extension and stuck it on there. And I got some interesting looks from the professional testing and balancing people. But Paul Morin of the Energy Conservatory told me that, yeah, that works, you can do that. And the powered flow hood, which this is still probably more accurate than the big $2,000 red one there next to it. But anyway, since that happened, I decided that, you know, most bigger projects have a testing and balancing contractor on board, and they get paid to do testing and balancing. So I don't think we need to duplicate their effort. So our approach is to work with the testing and balancing company and let them know, teach them about what the Passive House parameters are, and then make sure that they're doing it according to the passive house parameters and giving us the right information. And that's worked out pretty well. So they use spray foam insulation to try and air seal the masonry on the building. And over a couple of projects that we've done that have done that, neither of them passed their blower door tests. And I think it's becoming more of a consensus that you want to use something other than spray foam to air seal old masonry buildings. And lastly, we had an interesting thing happen when we turned on the blower door. We started to smell not a very good smell, and looked around and looked above the ceiling and found out that there was a plumbing vent that was open, that was not capped. And I think it was a good thing that we found that and got that all sealed up before the doctors moved in. So next project is a duplex that was built in Pittsburgh. We had a lot of adventures with this one because it took quite a while to complete. We did smoke testing on the duct system because it didn't pass at first. So we used the smoke to find out where the leaks were, and it came out very airtight after they fixed the leaks. Also found that when we were testing the ventilation system, we were having big problems, and looking up, I saw that the air intake had like a dryer vent kind of damper on it. It was like a gravity damper, and when it tried to suck air in, the damper closed. So it got up on a really tall ladder on the side of the house all the way up at the top, and fixed those and made them stay open all the time. Lastly, this house has a pretty amazing energy profile with a HERS index of -8. You guys know that means that it actually produces more energy than it consumes. So some photos from that, water leakage test, or not a water leakage, water distribution test that makes sure that it's not wasting energy on hot water sitting in pipes. And then the smoke test that we did on the duct system. This next one is another home for somebody I used to work for. It did get Passive House certified. And one of the things that happened on this was that nobody on the project team was comfortable doing the hot water circulation system design. But the guy who was the homeowner and he designed it too, I had worked for him before, and he kind of knew that I should be able to do that. And he also had been my boss. So he said, "Hey, Rob, how about you do the hot water circulation system?" And I just couldn't say no. So we went ahead and did that. And that was an interesting experience. And then another thing that happened on this one was that we had known that there was radon inspection required, and we didn't do such a great job initially on it. And we found out that we have to go back and do that because FIAS takes that seriously. They won't pass a house that in a radon area that doesn't show the radon protection system. So a couple of the photos here, we see the hot water circulation pump, and then the hot water system kind of bullet point list that I worked up. And then one of our guys here testing the airflow on the duct system. excuse me. So next project we did is a library. Excuse me for a second. Okay. So this is a City of Pittsburgh Carnegie Library, and it turns out that it is the first Passive House certified library in North America. We collaborated with Craig and the Oros group on this one. And he really kind of complements or supplements what we do. He, you know, him with his contractor experience, he gets out on the site a lot, and he knows how to talk to the guys in the field and make them do what they're supposed to do. So it kind of puts the QAQC process to the next level. We found out going out there before sunrise to do the blower door test that the tape doesn't really like to stick to cold metal of the intake and exhaust ports. So now we like to do our outdoor sealing the day before when there's no dew. And then we had some issues with the ventilation system test, which was actually my fault. You see the spreadsheet that we have to fill out for PHI. It's the final protocol worksheet for ventilation. And over here is Scott, and he's the testing and balancing contractor on the right. You know, testing one of the registers. We were being really diligent about it and making sure, you know, I was making sure that he did it according to Passive House parameters. And in the end, though, it turned out that I entered some numbers in the wrong place, and it messed up the final result. And I ended up figuring out what I did wrong, but that was after everybody else saw my results that were messed up. And it took kind of a lot of effort to get the project team on board with, yeah, it was just me flipping some numbers and not the building actually being messed up. So something to watch out for. I'll be more careful about that. And then on the left, PHI wants sound level readings for the duct system. So we got a sound meter and we did that. Moving on to last year, this is the Second and Delaware Apartments in Kansas City, and this has been presented on the Passive House Happy Hour, which is a really great thing last year. I think Passive House Happy Hour kept a lot of people sane. So me being one of them. So it's a 276 unit apartment building. It's the largest one that we've worked on. And so there's actually two buildings, and each of them has 138 apartments in it. My LinkedIn posts that I've done over the years actually paid off finally when I had known about this project before, and I kind of wondered to myself, wow, I'd really love to do that building. And, but I have no idea, how that would happen. And then it turned out that Midwest Energy Consultants called us because they were hired as the verifier and they needed some help. So we got to do it. And I brought Rhett Major along too. He's one of our Western PA field professionals. He's probably about the best in the area, and he's bailed me out a number of times. So it helps to have a collaboration with people like that. So one thing we did here was that they didn't really have a handle on what had to happen for QAQC for FIAS. And so I sat down and mapped out what you see here. This is a spreadsheet that kind of shows all the apartments on one half of the building, and there's always sampling protocols. So you don't have to inspect and test every apartment, but you have to sample. So, and then there's a number of different tests that you have to do, and they have different sampling protocols for different tests, and it gets pretty confusing. So I sat down and mapped out this spreadsheet and then got it kind of approved by FIAS. They said, yeah, this looks good. Just do it like this. So we helped out with some of the tests and then handed the rest of them over to the local verifier. And this one, is it certified yet? I'm not 100% sure, but it should be. So now we're getting into current projects. This one is actually only about a half a mile from where I live. It's an old synagogue building that's being converted into a 45-unit FIAS multifamily building. So it being FIAS, we have to do Energy Star. We've done our dwelling unit energy models, and of course there's a WUFI model as well. Everybody's looking at it from a lot of different angles, and they're starting construction now. This one was presented last week by the project team, and I think I heard that we were mentioned. I didn't get to hear the whole presentation, but yeah, we're doing the PHI QAQC on it, and also the funding agency requires enterprise green communities certification, so we're helping with that too. It should be an exciting project. It will be the second biggest passive house building we've done. And this one is going to be across the street from the last one. I'm not sure if they talked about that last week. Yes, they did. So these buildings are actually going to have the Oros Group's advanced building data platform on them. And I think it's amazing what the Oros Group does. So me having learned how to do single family energy audits and do a modeled audit and do improvements based on the energy model, I'm amazed that the Oros Group has been able to take that methodology and ramp it up, scale it up to a building of any size, and then go on into the building operation lifetime and continue to use that model to kind of be a measuring stick against how the building's actually doing. It's pretty amazing how they do that. And it's great to be able to work with them. And full circle, we're back to the Emerald Hills Retirement Residence, where we got our amazing blower door test number 977 CFM. This is showing we learned our lesson about radon. So this one we did a really thorough analysis of the radon system. You see this diagram here shows the little haunch slab areas underneath the slab that creates little compartments of gravel underneath the slab. So the radon has to get through those and over to the blue vertical radon pipe. So that's how, this is kind of how they do it. They have these sleeves that go through the haunch slabs, and then we went out and we found them. And so we documented that, yeah, this is the radon system, and this is how the radon is going to get out of the building. And we're doing Enterprise Green Communities certification here. They have to get, I believe, 35 points, and I think they're going to get like almost 90 points. They just didn't know when to stop. So it'll be a really great enterprise project as well. So that's how we get full circle to an amazing blower door test result. All that experience and great teams making sure that buildings are done right. So wrapping it up, the last slide here, I've been seeing a lot of ads on LinkedIn from FIAS about their conference. And one of the things they're saying is to people who are interested, become a FIAS certified verifier. Do QAQC on passive projects. It's super important. It's fun, and you make a difference. So, and if you're interested in Pittsburgh, contact me. We're very busy. So, I'm interested in hearing from people who are interested in this, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Rob. This is fantastic. We're going to pause before we get into questions and go to Zach.
All right, we've got a video from Tim McDonald about the New Gravity Conference, which starts tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow during the happy hour slot. So if you're a happy hour goer, please come to New Gravity. Instead, we'll do it tomorrow and then on Thursday. So here's a message from Tim.
All right. Well, I'm Tim McDonald. I'm a principal at Onion Flats in Philadelphia. We're a development design build company. And Mark, thanks for having us here and helping to promote this conference. The New Gravity Conference really comes out of a 5-year initiative that a group of us started back in 2014 to get the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency to support, incentivize developers to build to the Passive House standard. And the past 5 years have been pretty remarkable in Pennsylvania. In general, kind of broad stroke, they have funded over 1,000 units of affordable housing that have been built to the Passive House standard. And all the data shows that the construction costs are on par with code-built buildings. And that's a pretty amazing thing. I mean, buildings that use 75% less energy, have superior indoor air quality and health benefits, are being built for the same cost as code-built buildings. I mean, so it's a really great story. And we then took that initiative to a whole bunch of other states. Currently, there are about 16 or 17 housing finance agencies that have begun to incentivize Passive House in their applications for low-income housing tax credit projects. And so we went to Green Building United a few years ago. What is this, David? Is this our 4th or 5th year?
This is our 5th year.
5th year. Yeah, so this is our 5th year with Green Building United and this conference. And really what's unique about it is we said, you know what, let's have a conference that specifically focuses on affordable housing and Passive House and lessons learned from all of these developers, architects, engineers, builders that have started to take this initiative on. And so unlike a lot of conferences, this is really, really focused on those stories and lessons from those people who have built these projects. And I'm so excited this year to be collaborating with Passive House Accelerator, because I think, number one, they're just an amazing organization, perfectly aligned with what Green Building United and the New Gravity Conference is all about. And they just have this reach that is international, and I think can bring a lot to this year's conference. So that's just kind of an introduction from me, and I really look forward to seeing everybody.
All right. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and do some quick announcements. We're super excited about New Gravity, and it's great to have Tim on, even if it's virtual. Let's see here. Quick screen share, not optimized for video. All right. So everything we do at the Accelerator comes thanks to support from our sponsors. So a big thank you to our founding sponsors: 475 High Performance Building Supply, Baxting Architects.
Wrong screen, Zach.
Close.
We almost saw Venice, almost.
That
Only
was
one
a
screen
test.
away.
That was a test to make sure we were all ready.
All right. The sponsors: 475 Backstingui, Glavel Foam Glass Gravel, Minotaur All-in-One HVAC and Dehumidification Units, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, RDH Building Science, Rockwool North America, Stocorp, and Zola Windows. Our champion sponsor is SIGA, and our stakeholder partner is NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Thanks also to our patron sponsors, Aero Barrier, BR+A Consulting Engineers, Brennan Air Tightness and Installation, Innotech Windows and Doors, Sanderson Sustainable Design, and US Engineered Wood Teasted. Thank you to our sponsors. So on the Passive House podcast, we have Norm Horn, who I think is on the call right now, of Invinity, and he talks with Matthew Cutler Welsh about his path to Passive House and also about this cool building that he's working on, retrofitting a masonry building in State College, Pennsylvania. We also have a whole bunch of bonus episodes of the podcast that we're doing one every day from interviews that we conducted at the Passive House for All conference in New York. So if please find the podcast on your favorite channel or on our website, and you can access these short little snippet interviews with lots of familiar faces. Of course, we have New Gravity starting tomorrow. It'll run on Wednesday and Thursday, as we've been talking about. And I think that Shannon has shared the link in the chat. So we hope to see you tomorrow. And next week, we have a return from Gary Klein of Gary Klein Associates, Passive House Plumbing Part 2. Which we're super excited about. And then on Thursday, we will have the Global Passive House Wednesday, sorry, we'll have Global Passive House Happy Hour featuring the University of Arizona Solar Decathlon team. So lots of cool stuff. And another big announcement, we are going to take a pause, take a break, a Zoom freeze in August. So this is a break for you and for us as we tool up for a very exciting fall. We'll be announcing the September programming very shortly, and we'll all come back refreshed and raring to go in fall of 2021. So with that, I'll hand it back off.